All right, let's dive into something that's, well, a little bit mind-bending. We're going to try and unravel one of the most fascinating intersections of art and pure logic, the music of Johann Sebastian Bach. Specifically, we're talking about a musical form called the fugue, which has captivated not just musicians, but also mathematicians and philosophers for hundreds of years.
I mean, it's a great question, right? Why all the fuss? This isn't just about beautiful music. There's something much, much deeper going on here. There's this hidden architecture that, weirdly enough, seems to mirror the way we think, the way patterns form in the universe, and maybe even the very nature of consciousness itself.
And hey, this isn't some fringe theory. Douglas Hofstadter's massive Pulitzer Prize-winning book, Gödel, Escher, Bach, actually uses Bach's fugues as a central pillar to explore these gigantic ideas. So what on earth is it about this musical form that lets it carry so much intellectual weight? To get to the bottom of that, we have to start with the fugue itself. People often call it the most intellectually demanding form in all of Western music. And for good reason. It's not just a nice melody with some chords, it's a piece of music that almost feels like it has a mind of its own. So here's the, textbook definition. It sounds kind of simple. One main idea, called the subject, gets passed around between different musical lines or voices. But that simple description, well, it hides an absolutely incredible amount of complexity and, honestly, pure elegance. So let's try a better way to think about this. Forget the technical jargon for a minute. Instead, I want you to imagine a really intelligent, very structured conversation. This is the key. This is the whole idea. Each voice in the fugue is like an independent speaker with its own point of view. They're not all singing the same thing in a chorus. No, this is more like a group of brilliant minds all discussing one profound topic from different angles, all at the same time. Now, any good conversation needs a topic, right? In the fugue, that's the subject. It's this short, memorable, melodic idea, and absolutely everything, and I mean everything, that happens in the rest of the piece is grown from this single little piece of musical DNA. Then a second voice joins in. It makes its point with the answer. Now, the answer is just the same core idea, the same subject, but it's stated from a new perspective, usually at a different pitch. So the discussion is officially underway. And this is where it starts to get really clever. While that second voice is stating the answer, the first voice doesn't just go quiet. It introduces a new melody called the countersubject, which is specifically designed to fit perfectly against the main idea. So now the conversation is getting richer, more complex, more layered. This whole opening section has a name. It's called the exposition, and it's this beautifully orderly process. Voice 1 starts, then voice 2 comes in, then 3, and so on. Each voice makes its introduction, stating the main idea, until everyone has joined the conversation. It perfectly sets up the entire framework for the rest of the piece. So if the entire fugue, this whole intricate world of sound, is built on that one single idea, the subject, well, that subject had better be pretty special. And this is where Bach's genius just goes to another level. He wasn't just writing fugues, he was designing these perfect little seeds from which entire musical universes could grow. I mean, just think about this challenge for a second. The subject has to be memorable enough for you to recognize it later. It has to make harmonic sense, it needs a good rhythm, and this is the really hard part. It has to be contrapointally fertile. That means it has to be a shape that you can stack on top of itself, flip upside down, and combine in all sorts of ways without the whole thing collapsing into a mess. It's an incredible display of foresight. So how many times did Bach solve this nearly impossible puzzle? Well, in just one of his collections, he did it this many times. 48. That number, 48, comes from the Well-Tempered Clavier. It's this monumental work where he wrote a prelude and a fugue for every single major and minor key. It was basically a comprehensive encyclopedia of everything the fugue could do, from the most serious and tragic music you've ever heard to the most brilliantly joyful. But even after mastering the form in 48 different ways, proving he could do it in every key, Bach wasn't done. At the very end of his life, he started his most ambitious project ever, a final, definitive statement on what a fugue could be. This work is called The Art of Fugue, and the concept is just staggering. He decided to take one single, fairly simple theme and show off basically every contrapuntal technique possible with it. It's like a grand mathematical proof in musical form, demonstrating just how much complexity you can generate from one simple starting point. And then, in the final, climactic fugue of the entire collection, he does something absolutely incredible. He introduces a new theme. In German musical notation, the note B flat is called B. A is A, C is C, and B natural is called H. B, A, C, H. He literally signs his own name into the fabric of his most complex, most profound creation.
But here's what might be the most poignant fact in all of music history. The music just stops. Bach died while he was writing this piece, right at the exact moment he was about to combine his own musical signature with the work's original theme. It just hangs there, an unfinished monument to his genius.
So, where does that all leave us? It brings us right back to the question we started with. Why this obsession with the fugue from people outside of music? What does it all mean? The fascination, it turns out, comes from a fundamental paradox that the fugue embodies perfectly. It's all about the surprising and really profound relationship between having strict rules and finding boundless creativity. Look at this. On the one hand, the fugue seems suffocatingly strict. It's got rigid rules for harmony, for how the voices move, for its overall structure, and yet, from those very same constraints, Bach produced music of the most extraordinary expressive freedom. The rules didn't limit him. They focused his creativity into something that feels powerful, logical, and almost inevitable. When you get right down to it, a fugue is a self-referential system. It's constantly looking back at its own theme, reinterpreting it, folding it back onto itself. This is what Hofstadter called a strange loop, a system that seems to be endlessly rising and becoming more complex, but somehow always loops back to its simple origin, creating a whole universe from within itself. For some, it's a perfect model for how something complex, like consciousness, could emerge from a simple set of rules. And that really leaves us with this one last thought. The fugue asks us a question that goes way beyond music. It challenges our whole idea of creativity. It suggests that maybe, just maybe, the greatest freedom isn't found in having no rules at all, but in mastering them so completely that they become the very engine of creation itself.